This is Jets at Noon with Cameron Poitras and Jim Toth on 680 CJOB.
I was going to take it to the net and then realized that Gabe, I think, was pretty open and tried to catch myself and mishandled it in a good way to, I guess, fake everyone out.
It was Cole Perfetti there on the game winner. Looked like almost a whiff to me, Jim, on the power play tally from Gabe Vilardi that won the game, but they don't ask you how. They ask you how many.
Boom,
Cole
back
Perfetti,
to the net. Top shelf, baby.
Cole Perfetti had both primary assists and a great game from him, as well as the second line. Vladislav Nemestikov opening the scoring early for the Winnipeg Jets. Playoff hockey
Yeah, that was a
arrived
playoff game.
last night for the Winnipeg Jets.
And credit to the Rangers. Like, I talked about this with Carolina on Sunday. It's playoff hockey time. Like, they're fighting for their lives. They don't have a very deep lineup anymore because of all the trades, and yet they came to play. And I think that's what it's going to be like. And I think, Cam, we can get into this later, but I thought that was a perfect game to go into Dallas. Like, if the Rangers come in here and you pump them 5-1 and you got 3 power play goals, this was a great grinded-out win preparation for a massive game on Friday.
That's a game that gets played 2 out of 3 over a 6 or 7 game series.
Yeah.
That is the exact game that you have to win a playoff series.
Yes.
Because half of them are going to look just like that. 2-1, 3-2, good goaltending, tight checking, defense first, all that stuff. And you know what? Did they give up a little bit too much off the rush? Yeah, I think so. But they hung in there. Connor Hellebuck was great, making 21 saves. And a desperate, urgent team like the New York Rangers leave Winnipeg with 0 points, which makes it all that much tougher for them to try and squeak in into the postseason over Columbus and Ottawa, are the 2 teams that they're chasing right now. So,
indeed,
good win for the Jets. What stood out for you?
Well, just how tight it was. I like the compete. Luke Schenn stood out to me.
Yeah.
And I know it's only one game, but came as advertised. And for everybody who didn't want this or think he's too old or too slow, speed might be a problem come playoff time. I'm not going to lie about that. But he came as advertised, right? He had a couple massive hits. He's a gigantic man, and he positions himself well, and then 2 big block shots, and he's going to help the penalty kill. And I just think that, we're a lot of slow learners here when it comes to Kevin Cheveldayoff. Nobody thought much of the Nemestikov trade. Nobody thought much of the Niederreiter trade. Nobody thinks much of Tanev and Schenn because everybody wanted more. And I get that. A second-line center would have been great. But then Nemestikov takes one in the beak. Apparently concussion protocol. Not only does he play, he gets us on the scoreboard, or gets them on the scoreboard yesterday. And then Tanev's Tanev and Schenn is Schenn. I'm not saying this is like not disappointing, but what's lost in between the lines is always of Kevin Cheveldayoff knowing what his team needs. We have been hearing from a certain part of the fan base for years that they need a big physical defenseman that can do this. They don't like Stanley. He doesn't play like that. I think Stanley does play big, but he doesn't play big like Logan Schenn does or Luke Schenn does. Yeah. I'm not gonna like if Logan Stanley could play the style that Luke Schenn does, then you got something maybe more than you got. But I like the game. I thought Hayden Fleury was good. I thought you were making the point today, Dylan DeMello was good. Yeah. I thought there was a rush game. But this is the thing, Cam, right? Teams are going to try to beat you on the rush. The Flyers try to beat you by taking away your forecheck, by attacking your forecheck in the neutral zone. Teams are looking at ways to beat the Jets, and the Jets have to find ways to win in different fashions, and that's a sign of a good team, and I thought they did that last night.
Here's Schenn on the Winnipeg Jets.
It's not by mistake that they're in this position in the standings. The biggest thing I noticed is, how much structure there is and how detailed it is with, the D zone, and kind of guys are in the right position and defending first, and at the end of the day, that's what wins in this league.
That's high praise from a guy like Luke Schenn. And here's the thing. You mentioned speed, and it is a real thing. It's definitely a real thing. Every year that goes by, the NHL gets faster and faster, and speed becomes more and more of a factor. If the Jets can stay in their structure like he just talked about and hone in on their details, they can take away the speed from the other teams. And that maybe Luke Schenn is sort of a part of slowing the other team down. Like if they do end up playing a team like Colorado, it's going to be back and forth. And maybe the guy like Luke Schenn, if they can stay in their defensive structure and keep their details right, like he just mentioned, which he was very impressed with, that can be a deciding factor in getting past some of these teams that they haven't been able to get past over the last little bit.
Well, you're not going to give up stuff off the rush against teams like Colorado.
Yeah.
It's how you handle it.
Yeah.
It's how you get it back. And it's how you have, like we said, Connor Hellebuck to bail you out. There's a reason why when you find teams that have won in different fashions with lesser goalies, that's fine. But at the end of the day, no matter what your system is or what style you play or what kind of team you have, at the end of the day, you hope to have a world-class goalie that can bail you out of any mistake that you make, and that's what he can do. So it's going to happen. So go back to the game. This is what I thought of when Schenn said that. Remember when the Jets shut out Colorado 3-0 on home ice?
I do.
And I couldn't find a mistake in their game. I couldn't find a moment in time where they gave up 2 power plays to Colorado and they killed them off. And then I think it was Kupari who was gaining the zone in Nemestikov, and Avalanche grabbed him by the jersey and drug him down, and there was no call. And everybody just kept playing. There wasn't like hey, come on, what are you doing? It was just, they just kept playing. On the penalty kills, their sticks were always in the right spot. Every time a puck got slightly deflected, nobody left their position to try and reach out for it or anything, and it was solid, and Rantanen couldn't bury it, and they couldn't get the puck to Rantanen. So that's my point of what Schenn was saying last night.
Yeah.
When this team sticks to its system and its discipline, and it's hard to do like in a game, like when, I don't know, it doesn't matter what level you play at, you play your position, and then if there's a deflected ball or a deflective puck or whatever sport you play, there's an instinct there that I'm going to try and, and to have that discipline. I thought that's what they did against Colorado in that 3-0 shutout. And when Schenn spoke like that last night, that's what I thought. That's the key to their success, right? In this arms race, and everybody thinks it's over because Colorado and Dallas loaded up. I do not. As I said, I think things just got a whole lot closer. Teams that needed to get better got way better to try and get around the Jets. Now, if the Jets can, again, to Luke Schenn, play their system, play their style, Colorado's not the New York Rangers, neither is Dallas. But if they play like that and give up a little bit off the rush and get bailed out by Hellebuck and then get their game back and be physical and penalty kill.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, I think since January, they have the 8th best penalty kill, which is an improvement.
Yeah, it's like 6 or 7.
It's going to go up with Tanev and Schenn. They're getting better at the things they needed to get better at. I think the difference is they didn't have to get a whole lot better. Second line center, fair enough. But is it not good enough in the system that you could win some rounds? I think it is.
Well, what comes to my mind too, Jim, is opportunity, right? I mean, you missed out on improving the second line significantly, right?
Yeah.
This second line got you to this point where you're the first team in the league to get to 45 wins. We'll get into it. I got the magic number here for how many wins the Winnipeg Jets need to clinch the Central Division and also make the playoffs. So we'll discuss that as the show goes on here. But opportunity came to my mind yesterday when I was watching Cole Perfetti and Vladislav Nemestikov. You missed out on, as I said, making that big significant splash and just totally leveling up the second line. And nothing's a guarantee ever, but there's a perspective that the Winnipeg Jets missed out on that. That opens up an opportunity for Nemestikov and Perfetti to take their games to the next level.
And don't think they don't know that.
Exactly.
Like, you know me banging the Natchez drum all summer, and now he's in Colorado having career numbers, because who wouldn't, playing with McKinnon?
Yeah, he's
Mikko Rantanen.
Yeah.
But what's lost in those moves on trying to make your team better is the player themselves going, like, I think Nemestikov, with all the talk, has said, okay, this is me now.
Well, it's his spot.
I promise you the coaching staff would sit down with him after the trade deadline and go, you've earned this. Don't, show it. Not show us or like he owes you something, But I think a conversation is, Vlad, we're always trying to improve our team, but we also didn't because we have faith in you. And so he goes out and he's played really good since the Four Nations. Yeah. And let's get into Perfetti a bit quickly. 40 points, career high. 2 seasons where he misses the second half. If he's been phenomenal. Now, we talked about his lack of production, but so good lately. If he can get this consistent, last night was, and his defensive game, and his back check, and if he can round this out, there's no doubt in my mind he's got 60 to 70 points in him probably next year.
That's the thing with me. with Perfetti is it's him without the puck and how much strides he's made over the last season and a half. It's crazy.
Yeah,
it's absolutely crazy.
It's just the patience of it, right? And then people wonder, well, why are they running Logan Stanley out for 50 straight games when he's making mistakes? Because he hasn't ran 50 games in his career, and he's in year 5 of it. And they're trying to, the beauty of the good team and everybody being in on the system allows you to find out who some players are. And now, playoffs is a different game, and Cole's got to produce. But man, has he played well since the going into the break and after it. Even when he's not putting up points, he's just really rounded into who they thought he could be. And that's why I think they were looking at moves was he's not quite there yet.
Yeah.
But you can definitely see it coming. Like, it's going to be there.
Jets at Noon is brought to you by Wash Method Car Wash, 690 St. Anne's Road. VIP take on the text line. Win a VIP car wash from our good friends at Wash Method, 204-780-6868. You were. Oh, I heard about this.
So I stopped in quick because...
Did you get blinded by the glow?
Oh, my youngest one pulled a Rick James. He rubbed his muddy boots all over my car seats.
Wow.
I'm like, what's the matter with you? Like Dave Chappelle show. Like, why are you rubbing your dirty boots?
It's like one of my favorite sketches in the history of sketch comedy. I can't say a word of it here. I'd love to quote it right now.
He's probably at daycare right now, sucking on a juice box, eating pieces of apple that I cut up for him. Going, yeah, I rub my dirty boots all over my dad's cheeks.
Yeah, man, Rick needs some.
He can afford it. I cannot.
Okay, go ahead.
But anyway, I went to Wash Method today and met Justin, the co-owner, for the first time. And I got out and he's like, "Hey, I'm Justin. I'm the co-owner and love being affiliated with Jets at Noon." I go, "Well, we love having you."
Yeah.
And I mean, it's just romantic. And he's like, "Well, that wasn't the goal. I knew nothing about car washes before I came in here." And I said, "Not only do you got clean cars, but you got clean love going on here, my man." So, anyways, it was just nice to meet him, and they got a really good operation there. And again, like I took my young man to daycare a little early today to sneak in there, and sure enough, like maybe 14 minutes tops.
That's it, eh?
On a Wednesday morning, and it's just sparkling.
Yeah, you can eat off it.
And now when I pick him up, I'm like, keep your dirty boots off.
Let's take a break. Let's come back.
He's probably at daycare right now going, I got more sense than to rub my dirty boots in my dad's seats. And then he turns around to the other kid and says, yeah, I rub my dirty boots all over his car seats. He can afford it.
Is everybody everybody in the NHL chasing money? One player isn't. And he talks about that. I'll read you that quote when we return. I crunch the numbers as well. What's the Jets' magic number to make the playoffs and their magic number to clinch first in the Central Division as well? I also looked at the toughest schedules left in the Central Division. Who's got the tougher schedule? The Jets, Dallas, or Colorado? Who's got the easier roads? I got that information for you as well. Alex Ovechkin, is he going to stay in Washington? He's a UFA after next season. He's a UFA.
Jets at Noon with Cameron Poitras and Jim Toth on 680 CJOB.
So, not everyone is chasing the money, Jim. Jake Evans, who's recently signed a 4-year extension, $2.85 million per year to stay in Montreal. He says, quote, I chatted with some current and former teammates. A lot of them had the same message. Chasing money and all that is sometimes not the best way of going about things. Everything I have here is great. I have great fans, great teammates. It's great. I have no complaints. That from Jake Evans.
Well, and I'm surprised it took this long when it was under 3. Like, I thought he was asking for 4 or 5, and that's why they were talking about trading him. And maybe they were just talking about trading him to see what they could get, and maybe that's good GMing, the word I created, good GMing. I've made it into a verb.
It is a verb.
But when it came in at that price, 4 years at under $3 million for all Jake Evans does, I was like, what is taking so long? So good for him. If you're happy, right?
Yeah, and I think that's the situation here in Winnipeg. It's like, maybe I could make this much X, but I'm happy here. I have what I have. I know what I know. And I'm risking going out there when I already know that it's a good situation.
And you have to come here to get it, right? Like, you have to come here to understand the fan base and all that. Like, I can understand if you're just looking from the outside and road trips why you might not. But if you get here and you like the environment.
Whose remaining schedule is tougher? Winnipeg, Dallas, and Colorado. And what is the Jets' magic number? We'll have that for you after this.
I think that there's a lot of guys that go the long way around to get to the net when he's out there. But the shot blocking, saw some real good things on the penalty kill as well. Some good patience. After he got the puck down low, he made some good clears, made some good outlet plays. So good first game.
Jets at Noon is brought to you by Wash Method Car Wash, 690 St. Anne's Road. VIP take on the text line is going to win a VIP car wash from our good friends at Wash Method, 204-780-6868. Scott O'Neill there talking about the debut of Luke Schenn. What'd you think about Luke Schenn's first game? That might be something that's going to win you that car wash. Send us a text. What'd you think of it? 204-780-6868. Also, download the Jets at Noon podcast free now on Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, or wherever you find your favorite podcast with exclusive Jets talk and content only found there. We talk more. We dive deeper into Luke Schenn in our special podcast. Exclusive content there.
Deep dive into Schenn.
We do. And we talk
Let's
about...
take a dive into Schenn.
Are we going to see him move up the lineup? We discussed that on the podcast and only on the podcast. So check that out. Take Jets and Noon wherever you go and continue the conversation whenever you want. We'll get to the magic number in just a second. But I want to talk about the toughest remaining schedule. Winnipeg versus Dallas versus Colorado. That's the question. Okay. I dug into it. So the Jets have 16 games remaining, as do Colorado. Dallas has 18 games left. The Jets have 5 multi-day breaks remaining, all of 2 games. Dallas only has 2. They have a very compact schedule coming up. Colorado has 5, so there's more opportunity for Colorado and the Jets to have rest. The Jets only have 1 back-to-back left, and it's the third and second last games of the season, Chicago and Edmonton, where they come back to play Anaheim. Dallas has 2 back-to-backs left. Colorado has 3 back-to-backs remaining on their schedule. Playoff teams. Teams that are situated and have a very, very strong likelihood of making the playoffs. Teams, well, let's pull up the standings here, and I'll tell you, if you're wondering who I classified as a playoff team: Florida, Toronto, Tampa, Washington, Carolina, New Jersey, Dallas, Colorado, Winnipeg, Vegas, Edmonton, LA, Minnesota. Those are the teams that have a very, very high likelihood of making the playoffs that I'm considering playoff teams right now. The Jets, half of their remaining schedule is against those teams. They play 8. Dallas has 7 against those playoff teams. Colorado has 5. So if you look at that, you might say, well, if Colorado only has 5 games remaining against what are strong playoff teams right now, that must mean their schedule's easier. No. Here's where it's interesting for Colorado. 9 of their remaining 16 games are against what I would classify as bubble teams.
Like the Rangers.
Yes, Ottawa, Columbus, Montreal, the Rangers. I'd even go Boston and Detroit. I put in there as well. Calgary, Vancouver, St. Louis, Utah. Utah's only 3 points out of a playoff spot right now. They're certainly not out of it at this moment. So they're playing against those teams fighting desperately for playoff positioning.
Can I interject real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Prime example, the Leafs have Utah down 3-0 on Monday night, and they end up winning in a shootout. They roared back and
so you might say, well, they're only playing 5 of those strong playoff teams down the stretch. Those 9 games against what you consider bubble teams might just be a harder schedule than the Jets playing 8 situated playoff teams. Bubble teams that the Jets and Dallas are playing, they each play 4 over the last little bit of their schedule. Non-playoff teams, here's the thing. Colorado, 9 bubble teams, 2 teams that are far out of the playoffs. Dallas plays 7 teams that are far out of the playoffs. Winnipeg plays 4. So home games, the Jets are split down the middle. They have 8 home games, 8 games away. Dallas the same. They have 9 games at home, 9 games away. Colorado, who really is a home playoff team, they do not play as well away as they do at home. They have 7 home games left and 9 on the road. When it comes to road trips, Winnipeg has a trip through the Pacific Northwest and plus Edmonton. They have a West Coast swing as well as a trip in the Central. Dallas, Winnipeg, and Colorado, which is coming up for them. They go through Alberta, play Seattle twice in Washington State. And then they have a kind of an awkward trip to Minnesota as well as a trip through the Midwest. And Colorado has an Eastern Canada swing, a Midwestern swing, as well as one that goes through Southern California. So it's interesting when you look at that, right? Because the Jets play half their games against current playoff teams, but they don't have any more of those awkward road trips that they played earlier, and they have a much slower schedule. plus a balance of 8 games at home. Colorado has a lot of back-to-backs. They have more days off, but they play a lot of those bubble teams desperate for points to stay alive. How is that going to work out? And they don't play a lot of teams that are far out of the playoff spot. Like Winnipeg has 4. Colorado is playing only 2. And Dallas, as potentially the easiest schedule if you look at team standings against non-playoff teams, which they play 7 of, but they have a crazy travel schedule. They play a lot of condensed games. They're going to have to put on a lot of minutes over the final back half of the season here. So a lot of the times you say, oh, this team has a better schedule, that team has a better schedule. If you ask me that question right now, I'd say each of the schedules, the Jets, Dallas, and Colorado, they all have pros and cons. And I don't think that there's a clear answer if you can say which team has an easier road to the playoffs. I don't think that there is one right now when you look at these 3 teams vying for the top spot in the Central Division.
Well, and Dallas has 2 games in hand, right?
Yeah.
And the Jets currently are 8 points up. Now, 8 points is really tough to overcome.
Colorado is 13. I would even say that they're out of chasing the Jets down. I mean, that is a tall order.
Because the Jets would have to lose 13, and the Avalanche would have to win 13.
It's almost impossible.
And Dallas would have to lose 16.
So, but second, they're only 5 points back at Dallas, right? That's something that they can make up.
Yeah.
But Dallas is 2 games in hand.
But historically, like going back to the Elliott Friedman American Thanksgiving, and they've done this, and a former colleague of mine, Rick Ralph, used to run the numbers year after year, and basically he would do it in 10-game increments. But from November on, to make up 5 points took you 3.5 months. Just because for every time you win 8 in a row, you need another team or 2 to lose 8 in a row. Because if the other 2 teams go 4-4, you've gained some ground, but they're also still accumulating points.
Right.
And then after you win 8 in a row, historically, you don't lose 1 or 2 and then win 9 in a row again. Now, the Jets have done that this year, and that's why they're in first place. But, so my point to this is Dallas has 2 games in hand. Say they win those.
Yeah.
So then Dallas is 4 points back. Say they win the 2 games against the Jets that are left. Now they're tied. But the Jets have to keep losing. Yeah. And then they have to keep winning. So I've just given the Dallas Stars 4 straight wins. Well, not straight. They're not going to play them twice, not until April. But I like this, Cam. It's a big game on home ice. Mm-hmm. Even if you get a point, even if you go to overtime with Dallas.
Yeah. No, you can't just hand them 2 and get nothing in return. Right?
And then Seattle, Vancouver, Edmonton. Edmonton's going to be tough. Mm-hmm. I think Vancouver, Seattle. But the key to this is, and it's funny how we watch the trade deadline go, and then we look at different things, and we're watching. It began this way, and the regular season is going to end this way, and the playoffs are going to begin and end this way too. It's all about the core that's here. Mm-hmm. Can you elevate yourself to win the West and the President's Trophy, and come playoff time, elevate yourself? And this is a good test. You want to be playing meaningful games down the stretch. Now, the Rangers and Ottawa and all these teams are playing meaningful games to try and fight for their lives. Utah, as you mentioned, and stuff like that. Colorado wants to climb up. But this is a different test for the Jets, and it's like, can you hold on to this? Can you put your foot down? And I thought last night was a game like that. Because we all know what we'd be talking about if they lost 3-2. Man, now you got Dallas, and if you don't get those points and stuff. It was a tight checking, close game. They kept coming at them. Even when they got the goal disallowed, they didn't give up. They blocked some shots, made the right plays, and got 2 points. They have to keep this going. But if I look at the rest of this month, Seattle, you should get a win. Vancouver, you should get a win or at least points out of those games. Edmonton, fair enough. Can you get 2 points? For sure you can. Yeah. Can you get 1 point? Hopefully. But then you come home, you got Buffalo, Washington. That's another big game, right? That's a tough test. And Washington remembers you beat them already. Then New Jersey, they're injured. Vancouver's back here. If I look at 8 games left in this month, even if you go 500, you should be doing okay. But I think they should go 6-2 in the next 8.
Mm-hmm. It would help.
Or at least get points in 6 of the next 8.
Yeah.
Maybe an overtime loss or whatever. But to me, it's just, again, to what Shen was saying, to the style I saw last night, they're so disciplined in their systems that's what it's going to be. And the reason I like this game on Friday, Cam, is not just because it's Dallas and chasing them, and Dallas had Rantanen and all these other pieces like CC and Granlund and all that. It's just about, here we go. This is a test. Test yourselves. Now, if they lose 4-2, I'm not going to go, it's over. And if they win 4-2, I'm not going to go, oh, they're better than Dallas. I'm not going to do that. But I'm just, how do they play Dallas? That's what I'm looking for, right? Because that's what it's always been about this year for me.
Yeah. How do you match up against them?
Can you elevate your game? Can you elevate yourself? They might elevate their game against Dallas and lose 3-2. But how did you play the game? That's what it's always been about for me with this core group. And I think for a lot of Jets fans, it's been phenomenal. You guys have really, I think, really impressed Jets Nation.
Yeah.
But the playoffs are looming. We all know that's about. Yeah. But I mean, this is another test, and I think it's a great one. And then to go out on the road again, and those 4 home games to end the month, because they've been out on the road a lot.
Yeah.
Since the break. So, and then they go at the beginning of April. They go to LA, they go to Vegas, they go to Utah. Yeah. All going to be tough. All 3 of those games. Then they come home to St. Louis for 1, and then they go to Dallas, Chicago. And that's the back and back. Saturday night in Chicago, come home Sunday night against the Oilers, and they wrap up the season on the 16th against the Ducks.
Here's why this is why I wanted to bring this up, right? Because, and first of all, I wanted to look into this, and I wanted to see, do Dallas and Colorado necessarily have an edge on the Jets over the remainder of the schedule?
Yeah.
The answer is not really, if at all. The Jets have gotten rid of those awkward road trips, right? Seattle, Vancouver, Edmonton, that makes sense. Right, you're staying to play 2 games in the Pacific time zone. On your way back, you stop in Edmonton, and then you come back and you play 4 straight in Winnipeg. That makes sense. The trip back out to the Pacific time zone, you play LA, you play Vegas. On your way back, you stop in Utah, which is Mountain Time, and then you're back home for 1 game. It makes sense. You're not going back and forth and back and forth. And then when you go out in your final road trip of the season against Dallas and Chicago, they're both central time zone teams. You're not jumping back and forth between time zones. And these road trips, they make sense. And the other point I was really trying to drive home, and I was hoping that I found the answer, and I think I did, was that the Jets control their destiny here. You know, like the horrible road trip that started with the back-to-back in Pittsburgh and Nashville, a few months ago. That led to, it was just crisscrossing the country, back for 1 game over here. They finally come back for 1 game against St. Louis, and then they're off to Chicago and Buffalo, and they're jumping back and forth. The Jets control their destiny. That's what I'm saying. In these final 16 games, there's no excuses here. They control their destiny. And that's why I wanted to follow this up with the magic number. Right. And this is sort of a number that's been made famous in baseball circles, right? So the Jets' magic number to make the playoffs, it's determined by how many wins they need to secure that spot. So for the Jets to make the playoffs and clinch their playoff spot officially, and this is according to playoffstatus.com, the number is 6. So 6 wins by the Jets and or combined with 6 losses by the Canucks, who are the one team outside of the playoffs right now with 69 points. They're in 9th position in the Western Conference. That would clinch them a playoff spot. So that's the number to look for. 6 wins.
Right.
Jets and that's also Canucks losses too as well. To clinch the Central Division, it's still wide open here.
It is wide open.
15 wins. So 15 wins by the Jets and or combined with losses by the Dallas Stars will clinch Winnipeg first in the Central Division. So a loss. So if Winnipeg wins on Friday, that net magic number goes from 15 to 13 because Dallas loses and the Winnipeg Jets win. So that becomes 13. The Jets only need to win 13 more games at that point, right? It takes 1 away. So that would clinch the Jets in the 2.0 iteration, their first ever division title. The franchise did technically win one with Atlanta when they finished first in the Southeast and then were bounced in 4 straight.
4 straight, yeah.
Dallas's magic number is 18. Jets losses combined with their wins. So it's not far out. Colorado, because of how far they are back at the Jets, to win the Central Division, they don't control their own destiny. They're outside of the mathematical equation right now. It's too unlikely that for that number to start registering.
And that's why it's so hard to just gain 5 points.
Because
it's not the combination of wins and losses for the team you're looking at. It's the combinations of wins and losses for 4 or 5 teams around them, including the one you're looking at.
That's right.
And it's just tough to do.
That's what 6 more. This is what 6 more wins because the Jets have 6 more wins than Colorado. That's it.
And then you factor
and they're 13 points up.
Yeah, and then you factor in, and hopefully not the Jets or any other team, actually. I want everybody to stay healthy, but say some key injury here or there in 3 games from now, and that'll alter some things or what have you and things like that. But I like this Jets schedule because, you know, to wrap up the season, you got your Dallas, Chicago, Edmonton, Anaheim. St. Louis, this is April. Kings, Golden Knights, Utah, St. Louis, Dallas, Chicago. Like there's a mixture of stuff that you just keep your consistency. That's what it's all about. Be consistent and keep rolling. But it's going to be fun, right? Like I hope Jets fans are enjoying this, and I hope, you know, the other thing is we're going to talk Ovechkin next. But that game that's coming up here, what is he, 8 goals away?
9 from topping it.
9 from topping it, 8 from tying it.
He's got 6 games in between.
So 8 or 9 goals in the next 6 games. There is a very good chance on a Tuesday night on
March 25th
at Canada Life Center, you could see a record that I never thought would be tied or broken on home ice.
He has an answer. Is he going to stay in Washington after his contract's over? I'll tell you when we come back.
Jets at noon with Cameron Poitras and Jim Toth on 680 CJOB.
Jay has our winning VIP text from our good friends at Wash Method, 690 St. Anne's Road. Jay says, Shen is a beast. His addition changes the bottom pair significantly. Teams will be thinking twice about going to the corners and mixing it up in front of Hellebuck with him on the ice, and we'll get better with a few more. He'll get better with a few more games under his belt. That's Jay. He wins the VIP. Car wash from Wash Method. He goes, woo.
Jay.
Jay texts back. He goes, woo, romance.
Woo, romance.
That's what we're giving. We're giving romance.
Take that special someone with you, Jay. You won't be disappointed.
Alex Ovechkin said this, quote, I don't think I will sign a new contract with Washington, and health permitting, may return to play for Dynamo Moscow, but I don't want to look that far ahead. After this season, he has 1 more year left on his deal at $9.5 million. He'll turn 40 on September 17th and is 9 away from topping Wayne Gretzky on the all-time most career goals list.
So is it a year after this?
1 more year, 9.5.
Yeah.
And then he'll likely end up go back to play in the K.
And Crosby just signed for 3 more.
He's got multiple years
more.
on his. Yeah. I don't have the exact answer here, but I know it's longer than it's 2 more, I think, after this year.
I mean, he has 53 points in 49 games.
Still pretty good.
I don't know if he's ever thought, well, when I turn 40, I'm going to go play back home. I think he will eventually go play back home, like maybe like Yager at 42, 43. But
Yager's still doing it at
like
50.
This is different.
What is he, 70,
this
79?
Is different to me if he has 23 goals and 30 points in 49 games, like I get. But at this pace, play forever.
Jim Toll will take you all the way till 2 o'clock. Thank you very much, Jeffrey Fortier, for producing the show. That's it for me. Be back same time tomorrow. See ya.